I was born in Bloomington, Indiana in 1880 and was educated in schools in Indiana and Illinois. I worked as a barber, went to school part-time at Indiana University School of Law. But then I was called to support the troops in the war against Cuba. Cuba was fighting against Spain in 1895, and myself and a lot of other young colored soldiers and citizens wanted to fight because they were fighting against the tyranny in Cuba and we were fighting against Jim Crow laws. When the USS Maine was sunk in Havana Harbor is when the country decided, let's go to war with and so we started two militias in Illinois. I joined the Indiana Colored Voluntary Infantry Company B. You might have heard that song, The Bugle Boy of Company B. The black community rallied around the idea, but like I said, didn't go very far. They transferred us to Fort Thomas in Georgia, which is not too far from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we stayed there for 2 years. It was a racially active time, a lot of laws. The locals didn't want us there, but we wanted to be there because we wanted to go to war. By the end of the war, we never went to Cuba. There was a couple racial events where some soldiers got killed, some townspeople got killed, all just because of the racial tension. So after the war, we went back. I went back to Indiana, started school at age 22. I participated in a state oratory contest and won, which got me my scholarship to law school, and I went on to Harvard, graduated from Harvard Law in 1908.
I'm a dentist by profession. Welcome to the Somerville Hotel. My name is Beta Somerville, and my husband John and I built these beautiful things. Pretty, huh? We have 100 guest rooms, a luxurious 100-seat dining room, $35,000 worth of custom furniture, a spectacular Art Deco chandelier, a florist, a barbershop, a hair salon, a pharmacy, and a popular cafe. And the hotel is open to all people of color, which is a first here in Los Angeles. All of our friends gather here regularly in the lobby. Our friends consist of lawyers and doctors and educators. In fact, one of our friends is W.E.B. Du Bois. And when he comes, we discuss the future of the Negro in America. My husband and I are leaders of the Negro community here in Los Angeles. In time, we became friends with other important leaders, including Rosa Parks and Eleanor Roosevelt. And I'd like to tell you how that all came to be. My parents were early settlers here in California, and I was raised in Pomona and in Los Angeles. I won a scholarship to attend USC, and that's where I met my beloved John. He was studying to be a dentist, the first Negro man to attend USC's dental school. You know, USC was very progressive because back in 1885, they had a declaration that no student would be denied admission because of race, color, religion, or sex. But still, it was sometimes hard to be the first. And John experienced negative reactions, at first from his fellow students, but he persisted. And a few years later, I became the first colored female dentist to graduate from USC and the first colored woman to be licensed to practice dentistry in the state of California. John and I practiced dentistry together until the early 1930s. When John and I first married, we moved to a very sweet honeymoon cottage at Washington Boulevard and San Pedro Street, not far from here. Things were becoming more difficult for colored people in Los Angeles. More and more white people were moving from the South, and as a result, they brought discrimination with them. We could no longer go in restaurants. We were no longer served in a lot of places, and where it came to real estate, there were now covenants and conditions and restrictions that would not allow us to own real estate. The primary place that that African Americans were living was the Central Avenue district, and the housing there was becoming extremely overcrowded. We were really concerned about that situation, and so as a result we wrote a letter to W.E.B. Du Bois, who was the founder of the NAACP. I was really surprised because W.E.B. Du Bois responded immediately and came to Los Angeles. He stayed in our guest room, even though we had never met before, because no hotel would allow a colored man, even a famous, important, cultured colored man, to stay there. He was very taken with Los Angeles, and we became lifelong friends. While he was here, or as a result of his being here, he wrote an essay, and in it is this: these colored people in Los Angeles are pushing and energetic. They are without a doubt the most beautifully housed colored people in the United States. To be sure, Los Angeles is not paradise. The color line is there and it's sharply drawn. The hotels do not welcome colored people. The restaurants are not for all that hunger, but the black folks are fighters.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Pearl Ing Kim Louie. I was born in 1890 in San Francisco, in Gumsan. Does anybody know what Gumsan is? It's Chinese for Gold Mountain. That was what the Chinese called America. They referred to it as the Gold Mountain because the streets were paved with gold. You could come here and make your fortune. In some ways, I was a very ordinary, boring person, or that's what some of my family members said. In other ways, I was extraordinary simply for having lived and had a life. One of the unusual things about me is I had an education. I spoke English at a time when many Chinese did not speak English, and also my parents were Christian. My father went from China to Melbourne, Australia, where he learned English and where he converted to Christianity. He did a series of odd jobs there. He made cigars, he worked as a menial laborer, as many immigrants do. And then he came to America. My mother was sold by her parents into marriage. She thought she was going to marry a rich merchant when she arrived in America and have an easy life. But that turned out not to be the case. Luckily for my mother, however, when she was 11, Christian missionaries saved her. They taught her how to read and write, how to speak English, and also about the Bible. My parents were both very devoted to their faith. When I was little, after I was born, we took a covered wagon to Santa Barbara, where they continued to preach and outreach to the Chinese community there. There are many Chinese in Santa Barbara because they were involved in farming, which will become a part of the story later on. Well, of course, the cliche goes, you're a poor church mouse when you're a missionary or when you're a preacher. So my father, because he had a family to raise, then took us to Santa Barbara, where he became a farmer, and he sold his produce to the workers in the oil fields. In 1917, tragedy would strike our family. My father would be murdered. He would be shot. To this day, it's an unsolved crime. 3 men were arrested for his murder, but the bullets in their guns did not match the bullet that killed him. That took all of my mother's resolve, and she had to be very strong for us. I got married, and my husband's name was Yu Nam Foon Louie. He also, like my father, went into farming. He became a truck farmer, which meant that he would sell the produce out of the back of his truck. It's not too dissimilar today when you see trucks that are selling produce or when you go to the farmer's market. I was very lucky. I had been born in the U.S., which meant I had birthright citizenship. So I could own land, and then in 1920, when women were allowed to vote, I could also vote. Many people take for granted birthright citizenship. The Chinese in particular faced a lot of discrimination. In 1882, President Chester A. Arthur signed the Chinese Exclusion Act. Although the Chinese had come to help build the railroads and to participate in California's gold rush, they did not want the Chinese to stay. If we lived here, we had to stay in Chinatowns, where we really didn't encounter anyone but other Chinese, which is why many people who were born here did not speak English like my parents and like me. My husband did not speak English. He didn't speak very much.